Hello and welcome to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather. It is Friday, March 8th. My name is Wyatt Mullen. Kyle isn't here this weekend, so I'm taking it by myself. This weekend is going to be a bit interesting in that after a long period of colder than normal and a decent dump of snow, we're going to see rising snow levels for a bit, then they're going to plummet down, and this will be kind of like that last big push of snow before we move into maybe a warmer and drier pattern. So this is looking at the departure from normal temperatures over the past week, this kind of very end of February and first week of March. You can see this was one of the colder first weeks of March on record. Temperatures were kind of in that 2 to maybe even 8 degrees below normal, especially it was colder kind of further south. And so now we can go into the current snow depth, or basically snow percentage of normal. This is the snow water equivalent. And we'll see that Washington, even after the snow that we received last week and a bit this past weekend, is still quite a bit below normal, especially the further north you go. So Olympics and the North Cascades are pretty bad. Once you get down to the south near Mount Rainier and even further south, it's not too bad. If you go down to Oregon, actually their snow water equivalent, their snowpack, is pretty close to normal, if not a bit above normal. And we can even zoom out to as far kind of the entire West. And what this highlights is this kind of shows the traditional El Nino pattern. You know, we've got into early March. We have about a month left for snow to accumulate, maybe 2 months if you're further to the north. But we can see that this pretty standard pattern of the north doesn't do super well in these El Nino years, and then going further south into California and even Oregon and down into Nevada and stuff like that tends to do quite a bit better. So this upcoming weekend is we're going to have a number of systems that come in. So this is as of kind of late last night on Friday night. We can see that some showers move into the North Cascades, moving through Friday. So this is now Friday afternoon into evening. And then the big push of moisture moves in on Saturday and into Sunday. And then we'll see some kind of continuing showers on Monday as well. What this looks in terms of snow levels is we're going to see a bump up in snow levels, actually, especially to the north, getting to near 5 or even 6,000 feet late on Friday night before it drops down to hang around that maybe 2,500 to 3,500 mark for the rest of the weekend. And then long range, maybe looking like we're going to have a big ridge come in and bring some pretty warm temperatures. Seattle might even approach 70 degrees, depending on the model, and that would be for next weekend. And that's pretty far out. So we can see this in terms of this highlights the snow level over the next couple of days. And so this red area is where the snow level is at least 1,000 feet above the ground, and the white is where it's at the ground level. And as we move forward through, so this is now Friday morning at 7 a.m., what you'll see is very quickly the snow level rises above a lot of the elevations, except gets up to maybe 4,000 or 5,000 feet, maybe a little bit higher by Friday evening, and hangs out around there on early Saturday morning before dropping back down into this kind of get like 2,500 to 3,500 mark. And will fluctuate around there for much of the weekend. So this is getting into midday on Sunday, seeing maybe a slight rise up again. In terms of precipitation and snow, this is the 24-hour snow totals. So this is looking, and this from the American model, but this is specifically developed by the University of Washington, the WRF GFS. And we can see that on Friday, we're starting to see maybe an inch or two up in that Baker area, but that's when the snow levels are going to be pretty high. And then by 4 p.m. Saturday, that's when this first push of moisture comes in. And those snow levels drop back down. You can see that as the snow levels kind of progress to the west in the Cascades. The Olympics are getting a pretty heavy dump. Kind of by 5 p.m. Sunday, you can see that maybe 24-hour totals up near a foot in some areas. In the Olympics, it might be closer to 18 inches. So it's going to be a pretty heavy snow weekend, which is great for the snowpack. This is looking at the accumulated snowfall. And so you can see as we go into the day Saturday, it really starts building up. And then by the end of the day, Sunday into early Monday, we might see upwards of 18 to maybe 30 inches of snow in the North Cascades and the Olympics. In the Central Cascades, it might be closer to 6 to 12 inches, but you'll still have pretty high accumulations near the volcanoes near Mount Rainier. Specifically, the highways don't look like they're going to see that much. So it shouldn't be so much that there will be a closure, but it's hard to say with I-90 or US 2. But definitely kind of 4 to 8 inch range. A lot of the moisture is going to end up going into British Columbia. And so if you look at here, you can see this is in centimeters, but kind of highlighting that 1 to 2 feet, 30 to 60 centimeters down in the Washington Cascades. But it's really going to be big up near Whistler along that Sea to Sky Highway, and further up along the Coast Range, where they might see anywhere from 3 to 4 feet, maybe even 5 feet of snow by the end of the weekend into early next week. Winds are also going to be a bit of an issue. So Friday, they won't be too strong, but as we move through Saturday, we'll start to see them picking up, especially off the coast. And by Saturday morning into afternoon, we're going to see gusts in kind of that 30 to 40 mile an hour range, maybe even a bit higher on the exposed ridges. And then they'll be pretty persistent throughout the day into Sunday. They probably won't be quite as strong. So Saturday is going to be the strongest day, but still kind of in that 30 mile an hour, gust to 30, maybe a bit higher, especially the higher up you go. So just be aware of that if you're out. Temperatures are going to be around normal to a bit above. This is for Baker, about 4,000 feet, and you can see that this is the National Weather Service predicting the chance of kind of a mix of rain and snow as that freezing level initially goes up on Friday into Friday night. And then as it drops back down, we see highs right around freezing, and lows kind of in that mid to upper 20s with snow falling, heavy snow at times, and highlighting that breezy element. Getting into kind of on the trail conditions, because that snow is going to start, and there's a lot of uncertainty about exactly how much snow is going to fall. We can see that there's a considerable danger up in the North Cascades, and then it trends downwards as you go south. Pretty low currently around Snoqualmie Pass, because Snoqualmie Pass seems to be a little bit more stable than some of those other areas. Some of the avalanche problems that the Northwest Avalanche Center is highlighting for the north is kind of the wind slab as those winds pick up, and then wet loose as that temperature rises. In the last couple of days, we've seen some wet loose on southerly aspects as that sun warmed the snow. But as the temperatures rise, go up to 5,000 feet, you might see that kind of throughout all areas. Another problem that we're seeing pretty consistently is this persistent slab that still exists along much of the eastern area of the Cascades. So the eastern zone sees this slab, and it's pretty hard to trigger, but it can trigger and set off, and it did set off a number of avalanches over the last couple of days. And then we can look at Snoqualmie Pass, and no real problems at this moment for Friday. Although as we start to see precipitation move into the area on Saturday, we'll see avalanche danger increase. So going forward, long term, it looks like we're going to see a warm up. So get out of this pattern where we've been seeing pretty good mountain snow. So by early next week and into the middle of next week, the snow will end and temperatures will start to rise as that ridge builds in. And we can see that the West Coast looks to be warmer and drier than normal in the next kind of 1 to 2 weeks. So you never know. We still have a decent amount of time for snow to fall in the mountains, but we probably won't see any more snow in the lowlands. Really, once we get into mid-March, it becomes extremely rare. So this past week, we saw some snow down near sea level, a couple inches in a lot of spots, but that's probably it for the lowland snow. And then once again, wanted to give a shout out to all our patrons who really make this channel possible. We spend 10 to 20 hours a week kind of putting all this together. putting out on our Instagram, trying to like figure out exactly what's going to be happening and sharing that with you, and really help really enjoy the support that these people and everyone who watches our videos brings. So thank you so much, and we'll get back to you next week.